And if you ever go to the sites, you see hundreds and thousands of men who are bitter, angry.
I don't believe men are growing bitter or cold towards women. I just believe men are evolving to a more modern sense, where we as a society don't necessarily fall into the traditional sense of what it means to be a man, just how women have done, and how they also tend to mature a little bit earlier than men do. Men are just blooming later as we tend to, but traditionally, men have been the pursuers and providers, and that simply just isn't necessary anymore. Women are more than capable than providing for themselves, and I believe they even have more avenues to be financially stable than men do in these modern times. With the rise of the internet, if you literally go to any platform ever, you'll see a girl's picture riddled with heart reacts and support from socials, while men not so much. But simply, the concept of manhood is being introduced into a new world with new rules and new guidelines and requirements, and are simply adjusting to the modern woman and world we live in. I can't speak for everyone, but I personally love women. But I've also grown into the realization that being a traditional man isn't really practical. It's not that we don't want anything to do with women. It's that I'd much rather be happy than to throw my life away for someone who doesn't need me in a traditional sense anymore, and would rather have me as a friend or partner in crime. That makes you as a man change from the traditional to a more level-headed and down-to-earth kind of guy, where I don't feel the need to inflict myself into a woman to gain her attention or validation.
And believe in the theory of a red pill, where they don't want to do anything with you. They don't want to date you. They don't want to marry you. They don't want to be with you. And these numbers, by the way, are increasing by the day.
There are multiple colored pills, all referring to different versions of masculinity. As far as I'm concerned, there are 4 different colors that fit and mix between male categories. Generally, those colors are red and blue pill that have through time birthed the purple and black pill. The blue and red pill are ideas originally derived from The Matrix. If you have not yet watched The Matrix saga with Keanu Reeves, I suggest you shut your life down and go watch it right away. It'll help better explain what these colored pill concepts mean and where people stand when they use these terms. Modernly, the red pill is used to refer to a more alpha self-centered identity, where blue pill is the opposite, but in the original idea, it just represents people who are okay with accepting the life they have, and red pill is looking more in depth to what everything really is. Purple pill is a mixture of blue and red pill, and black pill is simply choosing not to participate in the whole game at all.
And I am concerned that the pool of emotionally healthy men who would marry you, who would chase you, who would date you, are decreasing by the day, because most men are walking away. And then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it?
I don't think it's emotionally healthy to chase anything or pursue anything that doesn't reciprocate the effort nowadays. It could even be considered borderline harassment. I do believe it's less dangerous for a girl to be the one who initiates an interaction, considering many things, especially when you know your value as an individual and would rather be happy and enjoying your life than to risk to potentially deprecate it with some sort of uncomfortable situation that could come out of you being perceived as saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. You never know. And sure, you could argue that that alone is an ability to be able to read the room and read social cues to where you create an enjoyable experience working out in both parties' favors. But for those who don't, it could be a risk and could potentially just end up ruining your day. And some men simply just don't need their day ruined anymore, let alone their lives. It's just not necessary to me.
You're thinking, oh, I can provide for myself because all men are toxic. No, this is a brainwashing that the feminists did. By brainwashing you to go to war with men, that men are toxic. This is far away from the truth. Yes, some women are like Amber Heard, is dealing with narcissism, but also some of the men are like that. But you cannot say that 100% of men are like this. It's far away from the truth.
Alright guys, by 2020 we need to cut that whole all guys and all women are trash mentality out, because it's wrong. It's literally simply wrong. You potentially stunt the ability to attract a significant other in your life that could potentially bring some sort of value in your life by carrying that type of resentful energy within you wherever you go. We need to stop acting like any specific gender is God's gift to this earth and doesn't commit mistakes. We're all just human and we all make mistakes. But I do believe that we're made for different things. Between genders, we can level each other out and create balance with one another if we're all just willing to respect one another and our differences as individuals. I also believe that we aren't all made for the exact same roles and don't necessarily have to force each other into traditional roles or genders to please one another or to please anyone outside of yourself or your personal relationships. And with that being said, I believe we fall into the spectrum of categories, and within that spectrum there's hundreds of genders and pronouns we now use to identify ourselves and our individual qualities. I think that's amazing, but it could also be a bit confusing for people from other generations and people who are accustomed to more traditional aspects of identity. And between that space we venture into more hostile or radical spaces, which I personally believe are feminism and color-pilled masculine doctrines.
And I have a clear example. My husband is a humble, hardworking, strong, masculine man who's providing for me and our son, and I've been making zero income for a year and a half. So please don't put in this category every man. And you cannot meet a masculine, alpha, emotionally healthy man because you are working hard, making this money. Where will you have the energy to work on yourself and being kind and gentle and kind and feminine so you can even attract this man?
I personally, and this is very personal, believe she sounded super hypergamous. What she said, and I personally hate, is when any one man or woman expect me to do everything for them and provide everything without getting hurt about what I want. Your love for me is obviously conditional, and I bet if I set my conditions like that for a woman, it would be a problem. Just doesn't seem fair to me.
Because when women are masculine, they're controlling, they're dominant, they are not interested in sexual intimacy with a man, and man is not interested to have intimacy with her, because what happened, the more women became masculine, the more men started to become feminine. And the other categories of men, they became now really masculine, and they're going to war with you.
I actually agree with her in a lot of things she's saying. It might not be what we want to hear, but it makes sense. And it's a very raw and real take in what we're actually dealing with. I think I fall into the category of men who've become really masculine, not because I suddenly gained 50 pounds of muscle from my opinions, but because I personally did go to war. Not with women, but with the idea that I always have to put my neck on the line without even being heard of what I want and what I enjoy and what I like, and always having to give our entire lives away to our families and not even being respected or even liked through the entire process of giving ourselves away to a traditional idea. It's just exhausting. And personally for me nowadays, it's just not necessary. I'm much better off playing video games or just meeting individuals who are like-minded, free, and don't make me hate my life.
So you're dealing with two abnormalities, and you've created that. And so this is another problem, having a sexless marriage where intimacy is not present.
I, for one, would consider myself purple-pilled because I do see things how they are and understand human necessity and nature for what it is. I don't try to change it or get mad when it shows me something different because I understand it, but I'm also in a relationship. Usually red-pilled guys don't get into relationships and stay single because they claim to understand that women are just not people to keep around. I respect that and can also see why some people would think that, because I myself share that idea. I don't believe people can be owned and should be free to express themselves as they please, but that freedom could hurt a person who doesn't share those type of ideas. I personally found someone I could be myself around and can allow for them to be themselves while creating a balanced relationship we both enjoy and can respect. But that's just me personally, and it took me a long time to find that person. And I personally believe it makes things much more fair and enjoyable for a woman to let you know she is into you, or not, and for men to just work on themselves and develop into the person a woman wants to be around. Now you've created a harmonious situation where nobody's in danger and we all are clear on our intentions. And that's what I mean by things just evolving and changing, whether for the better or for the worse. I personally think it's for the better. And for the people who are just stuck on the idea that men need to be the providers in the initiation of interaction, I believe they need to be traditional women and should first study and look into what it is being a traditional woman and how to go about that before they ever consider telling a man he needs to do something for her without ever providing anything for him. Because that's not what a traditional man or woman looks like. A traditional woman used to provide emotional support and care for her family, while the men went out and looked for food or finances to provide care and shelter for their family, while the woman protected the children and raised them to be functional humans of society. It was always a team. It was never a man doing everything and just being cordial and being a gentleman without receiving anything in return. It was about both humans creating value for one another that sustained their relationship through values and etiquette and created a better life for the next generation. I feel like a lot of people who just bash on men or women and say things like all women and men are trash are people who themselves can't sustain healthy relationships, who for one reason or another are jammed in a personal situation that prevents them from becoming a person whose energy is wanted around, and instead of admitting that and looking at the crude reality that they themselves can't become a person worth being with, they lash out and project on all men or women and make the rest of the gender look bad. I for one do think we're too advanced as a human race to be so primitive and small-minded, and for those who aren't yet, I hope you heal. Peace.